Hello and welcome to another edition of Trotsky or Bust. It's the 1st of March, the day after the primary, the great South Carolina primary. Okay, the reason I laugh is because it's not the South. They always try to present it. It's like the first black primary. It's not. It's the one black person, Jim Clyburn primary. Why do I say that? When you look at the number of people who voted yesterday, approximately 10% of all South Carolinians voted in the primary yesterday. Remember, this is on a Saturday, and there's no Republican primary, meaning that if you're some Republicans voted too. How does that compare to, for example, New Hampshire? In New Hampshire Democratic primary, 22% voted. In the Republican, 11%, total of 33% of the population, as opposed to 10% in yesterday's South Carolina primary. More people voted in the New Hampshire Republican primary. Totally meaningless. They went out in the cold in New Hampshire on a Tuesday, not a Saturday, on Tuesday. More people voted in that meaningless primary than in yesterday's South Carolina primary. Why is that significant? Is if you've ever worked on a campaign, you know, elections are not about the issues. Voters don't understand the issues. If you watched yesterday, if you watch them interviewing voters, why'd you vote for Joe Biden? Because he's more electable, based on what you say that. They don't know. I mean, everyone knows the famous quote by Winston Churchill, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others that have been tried and failed. But he had another quote, did Winston Churchill, that is, anyone who thinks that democracy is the best form of government needs to spend 5 minutes with the average voter. Voters don't know. So elections are about bringing out the vote. Well, who's going to be able to bring out the vote in South Carolina? Jim Clyburn. Who's Jim Clyburn? He's the corrupt establishment politician. South Carolina is there not to represent black people, it's to represent the establishment. Jim Clyburn, the guy, he funnels money to his relatives. He's really corrupt. Which they're all really corrupt, but he's just another corrupt politician who's been there a long time. And it's very easy for him to manipulate the South Carolina primary when there's he makes sure there's a low voter turnout, and he just gets all the right voters. The other voters probably don't even know where the polling places are. Plus, there was no early vote, and you could do absentee ballots in South Carolina, but that was it. There was no early voting, and they just made sure to. They always do it. I mean, 4 years ago, I think the turnout was 7% of the population. So it's really bad. And, of course, and also when you look at the ages yesterday, there was like 28% were 18 to 45, 43% were 45 to 64, and 29% were over 65. More people over the age of 65 voted yesterday than people 18 to 45. Think about that. 72% of the people who voted yesterday were over the age of 45. That's why Bernie got killed. It wasn't a black person's primary; it was an old person's primary. And they said, "Oh, this is what Democratic voter looks like." Really? That's what they look like? Old? Yeah. Good luck winning in November. And the reason South Carolina is so perfect for them is because if somebody says anything, if Bernie says anything, or anybody says anything, right away they'll label you a racist because, hey, it's a black person's primary. It's not a black person's primary. It's an establishment primary, and that's why what happened yesterday happened. And remember, it's unfortunate, but this is how the corporate Democrats took over the party. It was, if you watch this show, you know that I spoke about this before. Back FDR, a lot of the Congress people back then were the Bullwinkle Democrats. And yes, they were segregationists. Obviously, that's not a good thing, but they're the ones who helped pass the New Deal. So in the 50s and 60s, the corporate Democrats, and I was considered John Kennedy the first major corporate Democrat, and they used civil rights to get their foot in the door of the Democratic Party and eventually take over the Democratic Party. Now, I could say, well, you know what? If that's what they believe in, then fine, that's fine. But if they don't give a damn about civil rights, you saw the ultimate corporate Democrat was Bill Clinton, and he passed the crime bill, which is the most racist piece of legislation since Jim Crow. And his wife called black people as young black men super predators. So they don't give a shit about the civil rights. If they did, I'd say, okay, that's their issue, but they don't. That's how they did it. Now, if you're thinking, well, then the solution is obvious. We need to nominate an honest, non-establishment black candidate. I hope there is one, but you know exactly what's going to happen. They are going to rip him or her to shreds, just like they did and they're going to use like people like Joy Reid and Jonathan Capehart, probably call him an Uncle Tom or something like that. You saw even that guy, Jason Johnson, he referred to there were several African American women working on the Bernie campaign. He referred to them as from the island of misfit black girls. And they're not even the candidate. Why? Because they support a candidate who cares about issues like Medicare, like healthcare, like college, like income inequalities. Because black people don't care about those issues. Black people are so rich that they want tax cuts. That's what they want. They want a real corporatist. And that's exactly how it's portrayed in the media. That black voters want to elect a corporatist. A moderate is corrupt, moderate corporatist. Because who cares about healthcare or college or income inequality or, minimum wage? Those issues don't affect African Americans. It's so stupid, and that's the media. And this is the party that you think Bernie's going to take over. That the left is going to take over this party. Good luck. They'll find a way to screw over Bernie. You mark my word. And if they don't screw him over, like I said, they're not going to do it now during the primaries. They're not going to do it at the convention. They'll make sure Donald Trump beats him. That's the ideal situation for them, because then you won't have another leftist running for 20 years. We'll just have 20 more years of corporate Republican, corporate Democrat, corporate Republican, corporate Democrat. That's why you need a third party. You have to have a third party. And, like I said, I want to believe in Bernie. Like, I know you get sucked in and you watch these primaries and caucuses. They've turned it into a game. Like I said, this weekend I'm not even watching the the combine. Normally I just watch the NFL combine. I'm just so into the primaries I couldn't. I wonder what the ratings are for the NFL combine, because last year they were high and they thought this year they're going to get into prime time. I don't know what their ratings are like this year. So politics has turned into a game, and unfortunately, like football or any other sport, it's kind of meaningless. Who wins the game doesn't make a difference in our lives, and that is true of elections, unfortunately. All right, that's it. Tell me what you think. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or subscribe if you haven't already. And that's it. Trotsky's out.